We're going to replace our inner tie rod, located connected to the outer tie rod behind your front wheel. The process is the same for the passenger side. Using our 22mm socket, let's loosen and remove our lug nuts. Go ahead and remove your wheel, set that aside. So we're going to go ahead and remove our cotter pin here. You can use a pair of cutters or pliers. I'm going to straighten out the legs here. I'm going to use our cutters here to use leverage. Pinch and pry, pinch and pry. And we'll pull that out. Now cotter pins are a one-time use, so you just want to throw that out. You're going to have to replace that. I'm going to use a 17mm socket. I'm going to get and loosen this nut, but we're not going to remove it. I'm going to bring that nut up to the top here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a hammer. We're going to strike our knuckle here. That should release our outer tie rod. That nut is perfect on there. It works as a capture nut. Now we want to go ahead and loosen our jam nut here. We're going to use a pair of pliers here. Let's go ahead and loosen this. All right, now that we have that loose, we want to go ahead and remove our nut here. And we're going to spin off our outer tie rod. And what you want to do is when you unthread your outer tie rod, you want to count the amount of full revolutions it takes to remove it. So when we install our new part, we'll get a preliminary alignment setting. Let's go ahead and unthread this. A 17. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a crayon or a marker, you use whatever, mark up here so we know how many revolutions it takes to put it back on. Let's go ahead and unthread our jam nut here. We'll spin this off and set it aside. Now for the inner tie rod here, we have to go ahead and remove the inner bellows boot. There is a clamp on the outside here. I'm simply going to use a pair of pliers, release that, pull that off. Now on the inside of our bellows boot back here, there is a metal band. The band has to come off and it is a one-time use. So you're going to use a small chisel or a pry tool. You're going to find the head of the band where it is assembled. You want to go ahead and pop this off. Now if you're not replacing that bellows boot, you want to be careful not to tear it. You can see that we popped that band off. Go ahead and remove that. Go ahead and grab that boot, and we're going to try and slide this down the shaft here. And pop that off, set that aside. Now in order to remove our inner tie rod, we have to unthread it off of our steering rack gear. We're going to go ahead and install our tool, clamp this on, and then we'll use our ratchet to assist us in getting this off. I can disconnect our ratchet, and we'll go ahead and remove our tool. When you remove this here, there should be a locking collar right here. You want to pay attention to how this is installed. It has two tabs on the inside. When you install this here, those tabs are going to lock into our steering rack unit right here. You can line up your washer here. You can thread on your inner tie rod here. You just want to make sure that locks into place. There we go. install our tool again here. I'm going to use this to tighten down the inner tie rod. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down and make sure that's pretty snug. Go ahead and remove our tool. We also want to go ahead and remove our jam nut while we're here. At this point here, we do have some grease in our inner tie rod here, but it doesn't hurt to add some extra. So I'm just going to take some grease, we're going to pack it in here, work it around a little bit. We're going to install our inner bellows boot. You want to go ahead and you're going to have a wire tie or something like that available, or a band that you can put on the inside, because we're going to want to go ahead and reseal that. Push that in. Go ahead and work that boot back onto our steering rack on the inside. I'm going to go ahead and use our tie wrap here. You can actually pre-loop that now. Slide that in. Put that right on the back side, right where the original metal band was. Let's go ahead and we can tighten this down. Once that's tight, just going to go in there with a pair of cutters and we'll just snip off the excess. Going to install our outer band clamp here. Open that up with your pliers, work that right in, and pop that in place. Apply a little bit of anti-seize compound to the threads here. Let's go ahead and install our jam nut. Let's go ahead and install our outer tie rod. And we're going to install this, the 17 turns that it took to remove it. All right, is our 17 turns. Gonna go ahead and remove our nut here. I'm gonna go ahead and install this into our knuckle. I might have to adjust that a little bit to get that to slide up and in. Pop that up and install the nut. Now this particular nut is a nylon lock nut. You can see the blue collar on the inside. So in this case here, we're not going to need to use a locking cotter pin. We just want to go ahead, tighten this up and torque it to specification, and it'll lock itself in place. I'm going to use a 22mm wrench on the nut, and in the center of the ball joint there's actually a number 6 Allen key. Once we get that snug, let's go ahead and tighten that up a little bit more. Go ahead and torque down the nut to 44 foot-pounds. At this point here, we want to go ahead and tighten down our jam nut. Now if you have the ability to do so, you want to go ahead and torque this to 33 foot-pounds. We're just going to get our wrench on here and we're going to make that snug. Lastly, what we're going to do is we want to go ahead and I'm going to use my pliers. I'm going to grab right here and want to make sure that our outer tie rod is leveled, not twisted up left or right. So we're just going to adjust this here. Now that this is all complete, you definitely want to go down and get an alignment done. That'll help prevent any abnormal tire wear or drivability issues. Go ahead and install your wheel. Go ahead and install your lug nuts. Once we get these installed, we're going to snug them up and then we'll go ahead and torque them down. Let's go ahead and torque our lug nuts down to 95 foot-pounds.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.